If you had said 5 years ago that the biggest force in basketball, not just women's basketball period, would be a guard who could miss half a season and still move the entire sport without stepping on the court, people would have laughed you out of the room. Now that what if is reality, and every new number that drops just pushes the Caitlin Clark effect from fun headline to hard data. When people ask, what was the most important sports story of the year? You could talk about titles, trades, scandals, whatever you want. But when serious analysts sit down and answer that question, they keep coming back to the same place, the explosion of women's sports. And at the center of that, the Caitlin Clark effect, not as a slogan, is a measurable shift in money, attention, ratings, and power. Nothing made that clearer than PSA's latest report. If you're not deep in the collectibles world, PSA is the grading company. They're the standard. If they put a number on a card, that number decides the value. Their annual breakdown isn't about hype, it's about a scoreboard of who actually matters to collectors, which in 2024 and 2025 has become another way of saying who actually matters in sports culture. In their 2025 report, PSA laid it out plainly. Caitlin Clark is now the most collected active basketball player on Earth. Read that again. Not most collected women's player, not fastest climber. Number 1, above every active NBA player, including LeBron James, the guy who has been the face of the sport for 2 straight decades, with 4 rings, 4 MVPs, the all-time scoring record, in a 20-year highlight reel nobody else touches. And Clark passed him in a year when she wasn't even playing. She climbed from 6th to 1st on PSA's list between 2024 and 2025 while she was out injured, watching instead of scoring. No regular season dominance, no playoff run, no weekly viral moves on the court, just that name, that image, and that pent-up demand. Her signed Superfractor rookie card selling for $78,000 was the early warning shot. That was the moment card people went, okay, this is not normal. A piece of chrome with her autograph on it nearly pulled 6 figures, and instead of cooling off, the market just kept chasing her. PSA's state-by-state grading map made it visual. When you click into basketball, the heat map doesn't show a tug of war between a few big stars. It's basically one uniform color. From coast to coast, more Clark cards are being graded than any other active hooper. It looks like an electoral landslide. If you didn't know what you were looking at, you'd assume it was LeBron in his prime or Jordan in the 90s. Across all sports, she held 3 of the 10 most graded cards of 2025. That means she's not just outpacing NBA names, she's in the same conversation as Patrick Mahomes, Shohei Ohtani, Connor McDavid, and winning. Ryan Hoge, PSA's president, didn't dance around it. He called her trajectory the kind of surge that only shows up with the absolute elite. And he wasn't talking about stats, he was talking about cultural weight. Clark is crossed into that tiny category of athletes whose relevance doesn't depend on whether they played last night. Their market, their value, their influence keeps moving even when they're on the couch rehabbing. That's exactly why very rich, very cautious people are making very aggressive bets on what happens when she actually comes back. Let's talk Nike. From the outside, the swoosh always feels untouchable, but leading into mid-2025, it was not a pretty picture. Since 2021, Nike's stock price had been shaved down by almost 60%. For a regular company, that's brutal. For Nike, the company that defined sports marketing for an entire generation, it was a flashing red alarm. They weren't just losing a step to Adidas and Puma. New brands like On and Hoka were eating into the running market. Smaller niche companies were grabbing segments Nike used to own by default. For the first time in a long time, maybe Nike has lost its edge wasn't a hot take. It was a real question analysts were asking on earnings calls. And the way they handled the women's basketball boom didn't help. Demand for a Caitlin Clark shoe was screaming in their face in 2024 and 2025. Her Kobe's were selling out. Her PE colorways were all over both the WNBA and NBA. Every time she touched the floor, kids wanted to know what was on her feet, and Nike somehow dragged its heels. They rolled out a signature for Asia Wilson first. Now, let's be clear. Asia deserves plaques, parades, and a full signature line. She's a multi-time MVP and champion who has put in serious work. This isn't about whether she deserved a shoe. The question people kept asking was different. How do you let the single most visible women's player of the era, the one selling tickets, driving ESPN programming, and moving Kobe's at insane rates, go that long without a signature while giving one to someone whose pull with casual fans is smaller? Maybe it was production, maybe politics, maybe corporate tunnel vision. Whatever the explanation, the optics were bad. Once again, Nike looked slow to read the room. And then, very quietly, two moves changed the entire tone. On December 22, 2025, Tim Cook, yes, that Tim Cook, CEO of Apple, bought 50,000 shares of Nike with his own money. He's not a meme stock day trader. He doesn't need to gamble on turnarounds. His life is structured on the kind of ultra-safe assets most people can only dream about.
A guy like that putting millions into a company that's lost over half its value is a signal. It says, I've seen something you haven't yet. Shortly after, Nike's new CEO, Elliott Hill, did something CEOs only do when they really believe what's coming. He personally bought around 16,000 shares of his own company. If you're sitting in that chair and you think the ship is sinking, you're not buying more tickets, you're quietly selling whatever you can. Hill did the opposite. Fast forward to his next earnings call, he announces Nike's North America business is up roughly 9%, hitting about $6.3 billion for the quarter. After multiple rough cycles, the line finally pointed up. So what changed? There are a lot of moving parts in a company that big, but one thing is obvious. Nike has picked its next tentpole basketball athlete, and they're going all in. Her name is Caitlin Clark. The signature shoe situation that looked like a fumble a year earlier has been completely reframed, and the turning point, fittingly, came not in a press release, but in a podcast. On December 31st, Caitlin sat down with Travis and Jason Kelce on New Heights. It was a relaxed conversation. Two NFL stars with the new face of hoops. They joked around, told stories, hit the usual topics. But when the brothers asked how involved she'd been in her upcoming signature, the energy shifted a bit. She didn't play it off as, oh yeah, they showed me some sketches and I picked my favorite. She made it clear she is extremely particular about what she wears. She talked about obsessing over certain Kobe models because of how they ride, how they balance, how they feel under stress. And then she said flat out, whatever went into her shoe had to at least match that level, and actually she expects it to be better, not different, not cute, better. With that, she dropped the part that really got people buzzing. Nike isn't just slapping her logo onto a retooled Kobe, they're cooking up new technology for her line, foam and plate setups they've never used before, innovation reserved for this project. Think about that for a minute. The company that helped build Jordan, tweaked tech for Kobe, retooled lines for LeBron, is now designing something fresh around Caitlin's specs. That tells you exactly where the next era of basketball attention is going to come from. The marketing machine is already revving up. Nike's Christmas spot featuring her leaned fully into the phrase, "from anywhere," perfect for a guard who pulls from the logo like it's a free throw. The message is simple. She doesn't have a spot on the court. The entire court is her spot. The CC1 is set for 2026 release. The exact date is still hidden, but given the money Cook and Hill have personally sunk into Nike while these plans were being finalized, it's not hard to connect the dots. Very sophisticated people are wagering that this shoe, attached to this player, launches a new earnings run. Now layer the business side over the broadcast side. We already know what Caitlin does to viewership, and that's before you sprinkle a signature launch and a comeback storyline on top. In May 2025, after 6 months away, she suited up in a preseason exhibition against Brazil with Iowa. No WNBA stakes, no playoff implications, just a tune-up game against a national team most casual fans don't follow. Carver Hawkeye Arena sold out in minutes. ESPN, which does not casually hand out national windows, picked it up. 1.3 million people watched. For context, the 2025 WNBA Finals pulled about 1.5 million viewers per game under Nielsen's expanded system, which now counts a lot more screens and streams. If you adjust for the old way of counting, that preseason Caitlin Clark game likely outdrew the league's championship series. That's not a knock on the teams that made the finals, it's just a raw demonstration of how warped the gravity has become when she's involved. She doesn't follow the usual pattern where postseason automatically outruns everything else. She is the pattern. Her first WNBA regular season game in 2024 against the Chicago Sky did 2.7 million viewers under the older ratings model. Throw her 2026 return into the picture with a full Nike signature rollout, wall-to-wall media coverage about the comeback, a healthier rights structure that already prioritizes her games, a bigger, more tuned-in casual fan base, and 5 million viewers for a regular season WNBA game suddenly doesn't sound insane. That's NBA playoff territory. That's everyone's watching at the same time territory. Arena data lines up with the screens. The Connecticut Sun sold out their home opener against the Fever for the first time since 2003. Courtside seats for some of those Caitlin games have hit the secondary market at over $2,000. The Aces and Mystics literally moved to bigger buildings when she came to town. When she missed 2 weeks with a quad strain, SeatGeek reported a 71% drop in ticket sales demand for Fever road games. 71%, one player not playing. That's not just star power, that's structural dependence. That's what happens when an entire ecosystem grows around a single person's presence and the market adjusts without asking permission. And she's doing all of this with the ball in her hands far less than she'd like to due to injury and physical defenses. Imagine when she's back at full throttle, in her own shoe, with a year's worth of built-up storyline finally paying off on the floor. This is why all of the "it'll cool off when" predictions have aged so badly. When she leaves college, the numbers will drop. They went up. When she hits the pros and can't dominate like that, the buzz will fade. Draft night, summer league, regular season ratings, and merch proved otherwise. When she gets hurt and disappears, fans will move on. PSA's grading report, Nike's course correction, CEO investments, and national windows for meaningless exhibitions say the exact opposite. Her influence doesn't move with her box scores, it moves with her name. Right now, Caitlin Clark is more than a WNBA player. She's an asset class, a media property, and a proof of concept for something bigger, that women's sports, with the right star arriving at the right time, can push numbers that sit comfortably next to the men's side. Not just in theory, in cash, in ad rates, in rights fees, in resale markets, in stock value. She's already made collectors recalibrate, forced Nike to recommit to real innovation, pushed league schedulers to rebuild the national TV calendar around her, and pulled CEOs like Tim Cook into the mix as quiet backers. And she did a lot of that while wearing street clothes on the bench. So what happens when she laces up a brand new CC1 in 2026, steps back onto the court at Gainbridge Fieldhouse, and the ball actually goes in the air? At that point, it's not just a comeback game, it's a tipping point. The cameras will be ready, the sponsors will be ready, the ticket sites will be ready. The only question is whether the rest of the system, the league, the media, the companies, can keep up with the scale of what she's pulled into the women's game. Because Caitlin Clark didn't just climb the ladder, she bent it. And 2020